All right, guys, welcome into Compute This. This is a pre-recorded show today. I'm out camping with the Scouts this weekend, as you might imagine. That's going to be joyful. But I wanted to make sure I got you guys some fresh content and a fresh video for Facebook. So you'll get a little bit of behind-the-scenes look at what happens when we record the show. I still say a lot of the same things that I normally say when I'm, doing a regular show. So I'll drop the call-in numbers and things like that. Even though I know there's no one here to answer the phone right now, I do that because the show does air at different points and times during the day. So it's possible that the show is airing, at some other time and people might want to call in. So with that said, we've got an interesting show for you planned today. All right, here we go. Good morning, folks, and welcome into Compute This. My name is Thor Schrock. I'm the owner of the Schrock Innovations Computer Company. The number to join us on the program this morning is 888-250-2091. Of course, we're here to answer your questions. If you have a question or comment, give us a call, get on the air, and we will put you in the drawing for a $25 Schrock Innovations gift certificate, good for anything your heart desires at any of our service centers. All right, so we got a pretty fun show for you planned today. For those of you who listen to the After Schrock show on Facebook, we do stream on facebook.com/Schrock Innovations. There will not be an After Schrock show today. So after the program is over, when you're looking for it and you can't find it, it's because we didn't have one. So no time for the After Schrock show today. We'll be back with that again next week. If you're not sure what a Schrock Innovations actually is or what we do, Schrock Innovations is primarily, we started off 21 years ago as a computer repair company. It's called break fix. People would bring their broken computers to us. We would fix them and send them back out. Over time, because everything digital got interwoven together. So what we had was situations where you'd have a computer hooked up to a phone, hooked up to an answering machine, hooked up to a fax machine, and everything got more and more complicated, and each device did more and more things. As a result, we branched off into other areas of expertise as well. For example, Schrock Innovations, while we do fix computers, we also have our own data recovery lab where we actually open up hard drives and replace components so we can recover information off those drives when your hard drive fails. Schrock Innovations also has a separate division called Schrock Interactive. Schrock Interactive does website design, development, artificial intelligence, and now because the coding, the website design, it's almost like you have to be a marketing agency to build websites anymore. Everyone says, well, you have to have video, you have to have pictures, you have to have text, you have to have social media. You put all that together, you've got a marketing agency. And so that's what Schrock Interactive actually is. Under the hood, it's a marketing agency pretending to be a web design company. So it's really interesting watching the different values that businesses get by working with Schrock Interactive. Everything from like a business consulting perspective all the way through to just actual website development and marketing. Also, we've branched into some software development. We've created a program, it's free, called Drive Advisor that you can install on your computer, and it will monitor the health of your hard drive and soon the health of your laptop's battery as well, and let you know when you have a problem so that you can get ahead of it and get it fixed before it becomes a big deal. We also created a product called Secure Updater. This one's not free. It costs about a little over $2 a month to have on your computer, but it updates all the third-party software on your computer for you automatically. So when you get those pop-ups that say you have to update your Flash player or update your Java, sometimes they're real and sometimes they're fake. And so when you know what's real and what's fake, you can make sure that you don't actually infect yourself. Secure Updater installs the ones that are real so that you know the ones that pop up are fake. So it's pretty nifty piece of software. The whole goal of Schrock Innovations as a company is to help people get the most from their technology and make their technology work for them. Gone are the days of you sitting over your computer and saying, oh, I got to optimize my registry and I've got to go through and update my drivers and, oh, golly, got to defragment that hard drive. I mean, people used to make schedules on like maintenance things they had to do for their computers. Like the reason they had the computer was to have a maintenance schedule to do. That's not the way the world works anymore. Everything is fast. Everything is on demand. You might feel like you're not fast or on demand, that you don't use your computer for that much, for example, or the stuff that you use your computer for might be less important than what you think other people use their computers for. But at the end of the day, when you look down at the bottom line, you realize everybody is using their computers for what's important in life to them. And we know this is true at Schrock because if we take your computer and keep it in the service center for more than 24 hours, you usually start jonesing for it and you call us and ask, when is it going to be done? So that's why we try to keep all of our repair times same day to next day whenever possible. So if you wonder if this is the first time you're here in the program and you don't know exactly what to expect from this show, we're here to entertain you a little bit. We're here to inform you about some stuff that's going on. We're here to make sure that Schrock Innovations can turn the lights on tomorrow and have customers at the front door. So yes, I want to earn your business. I want to earn your patronage for our operations so that we can help you as well and provide a living for the families that work for Schrock Innovations that deliver these amazing services to you guys as well. The phone number to join us on the program is 888-250-2091. Coming up on the program today, you guys have heard of ransomware. We've talked about ransomware before on the show. You're aware of maybe some of the bright outlines of what it is and how it works. But one thing was really awesome. Trend Micro is a security company, and they set up what's called a honeypot. A honeypot in this case is a really, really beautiful network of computers that they led the bad guys to believe were tied to an aerospace or defense industry network. They tied all these computers up and then left them vulnerable. They didn't protect them just to see what would happen. So for those of you out there who say, I don't do much with my computer, I don't go to nasty places on the internet, I don't do things that'll get me in trouble, and we tell customers, all you have to do is turn the darn thing on and leave it connected to the internet, and that's enough. This example shows you exactly why that's enough and what happens with it. Also coming up on the program, you've probably heard a little bit about it's the weirdest story in the world, but they called him MBS. Is his acronym for his name. It's pronounced. He's the leader of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and he apparently hacked Jeff Bezos's phone. Jeff Bezos being the creator of Amazon. So why in the world is the king of Saudi Arabia hacking the phone of Jeff Bezos? So we're going to give you an update on what's going on here, why this is important. If it matters to you, great. If it doesn't, it's one of those interesting stories like, again, you say, why would anyone hack me? I'm not Jeff Bezos, right? We're going to show you how easy it is to hack a smartphone. Something that 2 years ago we would have said it isn't possible. Now it is, and anybody with enough money in their pocket can go to any number of security firms around the world and simply buy the tools to do it. They're openly available, and they're exposed. So as you can see, if Jeff Bezos can be spied on in real time on his phone, so can you. So it's something to take a look for. All right, so a little less technologically advanced story here, but we all have smartphones of some sort, right? Whether it's a flip phone or whether you've got the latest Galaxy S10 or whether you're an iPhone user, we take our phones everywhere with us. What happens if you take your phone and put it in an incubator? What grows on it? Yeah, that's I hope you had your breakfast story, because when we're done telling you about this, you're going to go get a wipe and disinfect your phone because it needs to be done. So that's going to be a popular one. Ransomware attacks, again, are causing more downtime than they have ever caused before, ever. And we're going to tell you that'll dovetail a little bit with the honeypot story there. Also, a report is suggesting that Intel may be on the verge of starting a price war with AMD. Intel and AMD, of course, are the two companies out there that make all the processors that go into your computers. And so a price war on the surface is a really good thing. It's going to lower the price of these components, make computers less expensive. We would be really happy if we could just get motherboards and processors right now. Some of you are about a week behind on new builds because we're still waiting to get motherboards and processors in our shipments. They say they're going to be there on a day, and then we get a notification your shipment has been delayed. And we usually get that notification the day before the shipment is supposed to arrive. And so we are telling customers, yeah, your computer will be done on the 15th, and then now we're like, yeah, it's going to be another week. And it was already another week. So that's never a fun situation to be in. But we'll tell you what's going on with the world of processors and the shortages. And ironically enough, we touched on this last week, and I suggested last week that it is possible that this whole processor shortage thing is Huawei. The Chinese company Huawei stockpiling processors for fear that the Trump administration is going to cut off their access to processors. China doesn't have a domestic processor capability. They have to buy American processors. So if we say suddenly that they can't buy them, we literally have destroyed their entire information technology industries. So they can steal as much intellectual property as they want. They can't do anything with it because they don't have any chips. Well, if you're Huawei, you're going to buy a lot of chips, right? And what chips are you going to buy? Intel chips. Shortage in Intel chips, and then a story breaks this week saying that Huawei could be the cause of the chip shortage after all. I'm just saying, I've got to toot our horn here, guys. Right here on this show, you heard that speculation that could have been completely wrong, and if it was completely wrong, I would never talk about it again. But since it turns out it was probably really right, of course, we're gonna do some positive reinforcement here and highlight the things that went well. So we got a lot planned on the show for you today. Also, of course, your calls, 888-250-2091. If you missed last week's program, again, if you're new to the show, you probably didn't hear last week's show. And if you missed last week's show, here's what you missed. The cable haunt program. If you didn't hear about the cable haunt vulnerability, it's very likely that your cable modem in your home or business is vulnerable to a nasty exploit. Schrock Interactive made a special tool for you that you can run on your computer to check to see if your cable modem is vulnerable. 600 million people are falling victim to what's now called fleeceware. That's when you download an app on your smartphone, but you don't realize it has a subscription model as well. And as long as it's installed on your phone, you get charged every month. Some of these companies, even when you uninstall the app, they're still charging you every month. They're fleecing you. So fleeceware, you missed that one. Also, how many computers do people have anymore? It was kind of shocking to find that most people on average have about 3 computers that they use on a varying basis depending on what they're doing. We had, honestly, at Schrock, assumed most people were down to like a smartphone, a tablet, and a laptop. But no, actually, people have a desktop, people have a laptop, and they usually have some other desktop or laptop that serves as a backup, or a MacBook, or something that's used for different tasks other than what the other computers are used for. So that was kind of surprising. And also, there is another vulnerability in Internet Explorer. If you want to hear about all those stories, you can grab last week's program right here on Facebook at facebook.com/Schrock Innovations. Just scroll down a little bit there. Also, you can go to our website, SchrockInnovations.com, and click on Radio Show, and all the previous shows are archived there for your convenience as well. All right, so last week on the program, I also mentioned, we are actively, for those of you who are listening on WHO out of Des Moines, we are actively exploring our options here for locating a new service center in the Des Moines metropolitan area somewhere. We had 15 different locations on our map to look at for our visit last Monday to Des Moines. We're going to tell you on the program here what we thought of each location, how it went, what stood out to us about some, and what surprised me about others, and go through a lot of things. It's a weird market, guys. For those of you who are in Omaha and you're used to the Omaha market, and those of you who are used to the Lincoln market and our other service centers where they're located, Des Moines is radically different. So I was telling my Omaha listeners, and you could do the same thing with the Lincoln listeners. If you're in Lincoln, imagine that South Lincoln is one community, Havelock is another community, and West Lincoln is yet a third community. Now, each of these communities is separated by about 10 physical miles of space that's mostly interconnected with interstates, but experiences high traffic because the ramps on and off the interstates aren't designed for the amount of traffic being driven on them, which is why everything is being expanded right now, because all of the communities have doubled their population in the last, 10 years. Oh, and all the communities have median incomes between $85,000 and $95,000, so you can't. It's all the same. All these different communities are literally identical, except you can't easily drive between them. So for those of you in Lincoln, this is like driving in Lincoln. For those of you in Omaha, this would be like your only option for a computer repair shop is if you lived in Louisville and you had to drive to Papillion. It would take about the same amount of time. So the question that I literally, in Monday, Tuesday, I was back in the service center because we were closed for Martin Luther King Day, and I was back in the service center, and a customer popped his head into the back room and said, "Hey, Thor, how did your trip to Des Moines go?" And I said, it was a little frustrating, actually. I didn't expect to have so much difficulty getting between the locations. We had 15 places to look at, but in 4 hours, we were only able to look at 10 of them. So it was a little frustrating. And I said, my big challenge here is trying to figure out how far will people drive? I mean, will people drive 15 minutes from one part of Des Moines metro area to the other part of Des Moines metro area? Or do we need, what's the best plan? They all these little individual areas have roughly the same population, roughly the same income, roughly the same demographics, the same housing structures. Where do we put the service center? And this is a real challenge. It turns out the gentleman that I was talking to had just driven in from Clive, which is just outside of Des Moines. all the way to the Papillion Service Center because it was his wife's 72nd birthday, and for her birthday, he was having us take out her old mechanical hard drive in her laptop and replace it with a solid state hard drive. Wow. Will people in Des Moines drive 15 minutes? He's like, I don't know, I drove 2.5 hours. So maybe it doesn't really matter where we go. So it'll be interesting there. If anybody has comments, you can post those on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Schrock Innovations, and we'll be happy to take your advice into consideration there as well. All right, numbers to call into the program, 888-250-2091. Right now in the Service Center, as you guys know, Windows 7 died on the 14th of January. So now if you're running Windows 7, you are officially on borrowed time. It is going to get progressively nastier for you moving forward. Right now it's tolerable. About 30 days from now it's going to be pretty bad, and in about 6 months from now it's going to be a walking nightmare to be running Windows 7 on a computer. How do you know if you're running Windows 7? It's really easy. If you look down in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, look at your Start menu. That's that button you click that pops the menu up in the air. In the lower left-hand corner, if that Start menu is a circle, you've got a problem. If it is a rectangle or like a square Microsoft logo, you're usually okay. Windows XP is square too. If you have XP, you're really bad. But Windows 10 is where you want to be. Windows 8 is still okay, but realistically, Windows 8.1 is going to be dying in just another couple dozen months. It's time to move on to Windows 10 there as well. So we have a lot of customers coming in because right now we have that on special. We'll upgrade your computer from Windows 7 to Windows 10 for no labor. It's just the cost of the software license to do it. Also, right now in the service centers, we are doing discounts on new computers because sometimes your computer from Windows 7 era was, it was from 2010. It's old and maybe it needs some work. Maybe we check it out and it's got a bum hard drive or a bad power supply and it needs Windows 10. And by the time you're done adding up all the cost of fixing it, you might be better off looking at a new machine. Here's the challenge, guys. When you go to look at a new machine, the computer that you bought in 2010 doesn't exist anymore. Nothing of that quality exists in any of the box stores anymore. You can't get it from Dell.com. You can't get it. Gateway's gone. If you have a Gateway, that's an antique. You can't get it from, Compaq is gone. If you have a Compaq, that's an antique because HP bought them. And now Xerox, for some reason, wants to do a hostile takeover of the HP board. That's one of those stories that was interesting, but not interesting enough to make it into the show today. So all these companies have been compressing and taking out parts or merging parts together or seeing what they can patch together on the same motherboard to save a nickel on every computer. After a while, you've saved so many nickels that now everything is together on one board. And if any one thing in that computer goes bonkers on you, the whole computer is trash and you have to throw it away. Which is why you had a computer that you bought a decade ago. And now you're finally looking at replacing it. And you're rightfully expecting to go buy a computer and have it last a decade, right? Unfortunately, that's not how the world works anymore. Your new computer, whether it be laptop or desktop, because if you buy that HP desktop, guess what? Inside the case, if you open it up, it's just a laptop in there. There's no screen. It's not like there's a laptop in the box. Come on. But, but inside the motherboard, it's all one board, just like a laptop. Everything is exactly the same as a laptop, so it's all identical. There's not really anything to change or modify. You can't replace anything. There's no way to literally make anything better than it was before. And if one thing breaks, you have to throw the whole thing away. Well, that's why our computers, our modular desktop computers, and our solid-state laptops are designed the way they are. It's the way you used to get computers 10 years ago, where the power supply is actually inside the box. Yes, some computers don't come with a power supply anymore. They have like a laptop power cord. Go figure that. The motherboard is its own piece. Yes, there's some stuff built into the board, like your Ethernet, for example, or, your USB ports. Those are built in. They always have been. But if you need a new video card, you can put a new video card in it. If you need a new sound card or a better sound card, you want to upgrade, you can do that. If you want to get a new hard drive, we're not like Apple. We're not putting the hard drive. Apple is literally baking the hard drives into the motherboards of their laptops now. So that if your hard drive starts to fail, you have to throw away your entire MacBook. So you spent $2,000 on a MacBook, and if the hard drive goes bad, you have to throw it away. Something that happens almost every 2 years to everybody. Yeah, it's just getting bad, guys. So all of our computers are designed to last you much longer. So when you come into Schrock and look at a modular computer, not only are we price competitive on computers, but the value you get from our machines is so much greater than what you're going to get from the box store. Right now, they're all on special in the service center, up to $75 off, which, I mean, doesn't sound like a lot. Oh, save 75 bucks, right? 75 bucks is a lot when you're looking at a $600 computer. That's a considerable amount, right? So it's over 10%. So check it out. Come on into Schrock Innovations. If you're in the market for a new computer, we'd love to have your business in the service center. We would love to show you what it's like to have that experience of getting a new computer and having it be just that fast. 888-250-2091. We're going to take a quick break on the program, but when we come back, we're going to talk about honeypots. No, not those, not the Winnie the Pooh honeypots. We're going to talk about the honeypot network that Trend Micro set up and put together that tricked bad guys into thinking they were actually hacking into something real. And then they watched what the bad guys did and how long it took them to get in and things like that. It's going to blow your mind how vulnerable your unprotected computers can be when they're connected to the internet. This is a cautionary tale for anybody out there who is stubbornly not going to upgrade from Windows 7. I literally had one customer on the bench in Lincoln who is not going to do it. She wanted to keep the computer for another year before she did it. And I tried to warn her that it's going to cost her money to do that. She's going to spend a couple $100 to do that because we're going to have to fix it and remove viruses several times. She wasn't having it. That's just how she wanted to do it. So, our job is to give you options. So we're going to tell you that story. Also coming up here in the program, we've got the timeline of what happened with the whole Jeff Bezos thing and how he got hacked by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And then your smartphone, you really need to clean it. Just go get the wipes now. You're going to need to clean this thing by the time you're done hearing the story. All that and your calls coming up next on Compute This. All right, guys, so there we go. So that was segment 1. Then we move forward into segment 2. Right now, I'm actually very cold. I think we're camping in a cabin this time around, which is going to be nice. But it'll be a big drafty cabin probably with a bunch of snoring boys. So, I'll bring earplugs and I'll be fine. But for those of you who are worried about me, we'll be okay. So I'm going to save this one as segment 1. So this is Compute This segment 1. And we're going to stick it on the desktop, right, where Scott produces the show for me. Scott Voorhees on KFAB. He produces the show for me when we have to do it this way. So we're going to save these segments. He keeps telling me, Thor, just run the microphone and just go. Let yourself go. And I'm like, I go for 2 hours, man. I need to restrict this down to segments so that I can have breaks, because some of our stations like KFOR in Lincoln require us to have commercial breaks. KFAB and WHO, they don't care. So we could just keep going if we wanted to the whole hour, but we have to have commercial breaks, which is why you guys hear the commercials for Schrock in the fake commercial breaks, basically, because some stations require us to do that. All right, so let's highlight everything, delete it, and now we start segment 2. But of course I didn't look at how long segment 1 was. So I'm going to go back and look at that again because we don't want to go too long. If I go too long, that's a problem as well. All right, so segment 1 is 21 minutes and 15 seconds. All right, so 21:15. All right, and my phone is, of course, exploding because I'm recording during the business day here, so I keep getting calls. If you hear my phone buzzing, I finally got it to silence without, talking on the air about it. All right, so we're going to go about 9 minutes on this segment. Alrighty, folks, welcome back into Compute This. My name's Thor Schrock. I'm the owner of the Schrock Innovations Computer Company. Phone number to join us on the program today is 888-250-2091. Quick program note for you. We will not be doing an After Schrock after the show today. So if you're watching on Facebook right now and you're looking after the program is over for that After Schrock, it's not going to be there today. We'll be back with one again next week. All right, so we were talking before we went into the break about how, from a security perspective, a lot of customers come in and talk to us and they say, Thor, I don't do a lot with my computer. Tell me if this is you. I use my computer for internet and email. I might Google some stuff. I check my email. I talk to the kids, things like that. Maybe once in a while I'll get on Facebook. But realistically, I don't do a whole lot with my computer. Now, of course, once we start really talking to you about what you're doing with your computer, we find out there's lots of other stuff. I'm taking pictures, I'm printing pictures, I'm going through doing genealogy stuff. I do my taxes, I balance my checkbook, I pay some bills. We find out after we ask some questions that there's usually more than that, but sometimes that's all there is. So here's the question. If you have a computer running Windows 10, so it's not like outdated Windows 7 that's full of security holes now, but Windows 10 sitting on a desk connected to a cable modem, and you don't do anything with it, you literally turn it on and go on vacation for a month, can it get hacked? And the answer is yes, it can. And so basically what happened is a company called Trend Micro, they used to make, back in the day, Trend Micro made really good antivirus software, now not so much, but they're still a security company. And they set up what's called a honeypot to monitor what cyber criminals are doing when they target, in this case it was industrial environments, but the concept still applies to your home computer. They found that hackers are going after factories in large numbers, as well as we know from our experience in the service centers, regular individual people too. Now, the bad guys like to go after businesses like factories and hospitals and cities and things like that because the paydays are bigger. They're harder to infect, they're harder to get in, but boy, if you get in, they usually have some kind of false sense of security that's led them to believe that they're impervious to attack. Much like some people believe that if they don't get antivirus on their computer and they just turn their computer on and they just don't go to any bad places on the internet or something, that they're not going to get attacked. It's a false sense of security. So here's what they did. They made a honeypot, and to make the honeypot as convincing as possible, researchers took a bunch of desktop computers and linked them together on a network. They added a server. They created a fake company called MeTech. And MeTech, they even created a website for MeTech that detailed how this manufacturer serves clients in high-tech sectors like defense and aerospace, really popular targets for hackers to find. Because, they didn't have a year to wait here. They wanted to get something going pretty quick, so they made it an attractive target. The website even featured images that were created by artificial intelligence of people that didn't really exist, that were supposedly leaders in their field, to just further the illusion that this company was on the cutting edge of something. So Trend Micro launched this honeypot May of last year. So almost a year ago. They launched it May of last year. They set it up with weaknesses like virtual network computing, VNC, which a lot of your old outdated routers, again, if you haven't replaced your wireless router in 5 years, you might have open VNC ports on your router. That was before anybody knew about that. They had control access. They had unsecured forward-facing remote desktop ports. If you remote into your computers at home or work, you have forward-facing remote desktop ports. I have a forward-facing remote desktop port. My router has it blocks attacks every day where they're trying to brute force attack that port and find, maybe my password is password, right? So they try password 1, password 123, trying to get through. I'm getting attacked like that every day. So are you. You just don't really know it. So to further entice potential hackers toward the exposed online systems, researchers leaked information online about how vulnerable these systems were. They posted articles in darknet forums and things like that, places you don't want to go, just to get the attention of some hackers, to get them to poke around and look. It wasn't long before cyber criminals were attracted toward MeTech's honeypot and were attempting to infiltrate it. A few weeks after the honeypot went live, an attacker found their way into the network and installed Bitcoin mining software. You juvenile attack. Come on, you amateur. And the guy they kept killing the software, stopping it, and he kept noticing it was stopped, so he kept getting back into the network and restarting the software over and over and over again. And finally they shut him down because he was kind of boring, to be honest. Bitcoin is boring, right? So more cyber criminals then found it under the impression it was a fully operational industrial environment because all the little script kiddies that were putting Bitcoin stuff on there, they were talking about how they found this great mark. So other guys started finding it. The number of attackers performing reconnaissance on the network skyrocketed, likely in an effort to see what they could find, what they could take control of. Some of the attackers used what are called shutdown attacks, where they turn off the computers, which for your home isn't a big deal. You come out, your computer's turned off. Oh, well, that was weird. But imagine that your computer is running a factory, an automation factory, and suddenly it gets turned off. That's a pretty serious attack. You lose productivity. So shutdown attacks were something that was the next thing that they saw. By September, so this was from May, June, July, August, September, so 4 months in, By September, the honeypot was attracting large amounts of interest from malicious hackers, and MeTech was targeted with ransomware attacks that allowed researchers to monitor how the incidents unfolded. So this is the ransomware stuff that we're talking about. This is when bad guys attack a computer and they encrypt all of the files on the computer so you can't get into your photos or your documents or your email or anything anymore. And then they demand a ransom to be paid in Bitcoin. Sometimes the ransom is a few $100s and sometimes it's tens of thousands of dollars. It just depends on how much the attackers think they can get from you. So this started with an attacker investigating the systems and conducting reconnaissance across the network to see what they were dealing with. And then using remote desktop functions, they accessed TeamViewer, which is a common method of attack. If you have TeamViewer installed on your computer, so there's a reason Secure Updater automatically updates TeamViewer for you. It is commonly attacked. We have to make sure it stays closed up. The attacker deployed a variant of the Crisis ransomware onto the network and demanded 10 grand in Bitcoin to free up the network. So then they decided to have fun with this guy. They start emailing back and forth with the criminal like, I don't have 10,000. I know we're like this massive aerospace defense company, but MeTech is broke. And so can we get a discount? And the hacker, in his benevolent courtesy, reduced the price to $6,000 in Bitcoin, which they, of course, didn't pay. They reset the honeypot, pulling the bear trap open again, and then just let it go again. But it wasn't the only ransomware campaign that got hit in there. Well, once again in October, just a month later, more hackers got in and deployed the Phobos ransomware, which they removed and reset again. They didn't pay the ransomware, obviously. And then a few weeks after that, they started to get all the less sophisticated ones. So all the big guys figured out that this is not the real deal. But so then they sold like, hey, I know this great place you can go to infect, and they sold it to people who didn't know. So now all the script kiddies, all the chumps in the hacking community are buying these lists of compromised computers, and the honeypot was on the list. And so now they're getting in there. They said one guy was so stupid he couldn't even launch his own virus. He was in the computer. He couldn't get the virus to launch. So finally he just opened up a bunch of pornographic websites and then disconnected from the computer. So yeah, so that's what you're exposing yourself to. Now, they didn't install any antivirus on these computers. They didn't take any steps. There was no firewall. There was no Secure Updater. They had outdated versions of TeamViewer installed. This is the definition of a consumer's computer. You might be slightly different. For example, I'm going to target one specific antivirus product here. I'm going to target this product because I can demonstrate definitively that it is an inferior protection product. Okay? So we had a guy that came in to our service center, and of course, it's escaping me now, the name of it. I said I was going to tell you all about it, now I can't think of the name of it. It's blowing out of my mind. So some people think they have really good antivirus. PCmatic, that was the name of it. It was PCmatic. You see the ads, the Go State ads on TV where the girl comes home from college and dad gets her computer cleaned up with PCmatic and the antivirus. You buy it, you get a license for life to run the antivirus forever. It does not protect your computer. We infected the guy's computer right in front of him, intentionally. We cleaned it up, of course. But we infected his computer right in front of him with PCmatic running. And then, ironically, PCmatic just happened to send an email in the next moment that came through saying they just completed a system scan, and his computer was A-OK, coach. There was no problems at all. Well, obviously, it was infected with a virus. We just did it. And I can repeat that test. It still works today on every PCmatic computer. So if you're using PCmatic, you are the honeypot. You think you're protected, but you're not. To a lesser degree, if you're running McAfee, you think you're protected, but in many cases you're not. If you are running Norton 360 with LifeLock, in many ways you think you're protected, but you're not. Norton 360 is not the same as Symantec Endpoint. They're not made by the same companies anymore. Yeah, they bought the intellectual property. Kind of like China, except they didn't steal it. If you have Trend Micro, you're not as protected as you think you are. If you have AVG, they're not even in business anymore. They're not even a company anymore. They were bought by Avast. So if you have Avast, you're not as protected as you thought you were. And I could go on and on and on. The bottom line, guys, is you've got to make sure that your computers are safe and secured, which means you've got to get off Windows Vista. You've got to get off Windows 7. If you have that circle in the lower left-hand corner for a start menu, you've got to get away from that stuff. Secondly, if your computer is not protected by good antivirus, and there's only two out there that really do a great job, Symantec Endpoint and Kaspersky. One's made in Russia, one's made in America. I don't really care which one you choose. But those are the two that really do a good job of protecting your computer. If you've got one of those two, you're usually okay. get one of those two to protect your computer. Install it on your phones, guys. The bacteria is not the only thing infecting your phones. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. If they can get to Jeff Bezos' phone with a simple text message, which is what they did, they can get to your phone too. All right, so number to join us, 888-250-2091. Got to take our bottom of the hour break. Go get your pottying done, get your snacks, guys, because we're going to have more of the program coming up next on Compute This. See, guys, that's what I mean. I was supposed to go 9 minutes. I went 11 minutes. So what's up with that, right? So this is Compute This segment 2. We're going to save it there. And this segment is 11 minutes and 4 seconds. But what's 4 seconds between friends? 11 minutes. This is why Scott loves me. He's like, Thor, the seconds add up. They matter. All right, so the first segment we had 21:15, and now we have 11:04, so we're at 32:20 roughly. So I went 2 minutes and 20 seconds over break, basically, for the bottom of the hour. I need 48 total. I need 2 more segments. So 48 minus 32, which I could have done in my head if I would have thought about it, is 16. I need 2 more 8-minute segments. All right. See, this is what happens every week, guys. This is behind the scenes. You see me starting to freak out. Now, I've covered 1 story, and I have 2 8-minute segments left. I know I'm not taking any calls because we're not live, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stories to get through. So now we're going to turn on to rapid mode and see what we can get done here. All right, so we'll get this back open. We delete what we got there. We hit home, and we start again. All right, folks, thanks for joining us and sticking with us through the break there. My name's Thor Schrock, and you're listening to Compute This, a program put on by the Schrock Innovations Computer Company. We have 3 locations to help you out when your technology is not doing what you need it to do. Location number 1, the original Schrock Innovations, is now located at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln. We used to be on 27th and Pine Lake Road. We moved. We didn't go out of business. We moved. We sent postcards. We sent emails. We had a big sale. Still, people think we went out of business, but we actually moved. So we're still there. We're still in business. We're still there to help you. In Omaha, 168th and Burke, just across the street from the Village Point Mall. And also in Papillion on the corner of 84th and Highway 370 in Midlands Place. Excellent location there. We are also looking at West Des Moines. Was the one location of the 10 we looked at that we felt was good. You know, we looked at the Johnston area. We looked at a location in Clive. We looked at West Des Moines. We looked at the Jordan Creek area. We looked at Urbandale, where a lot of our competitors seem to be collected. Primarily, I asked my realtor about that. I was like, why are all these computer repair companies in Urbandale? And he said, well, there's no polite way to say this, but Urbandale has some more rundown real estate than the rest of the areas, so it's cheaper. It's cheaper per square foot. And he's not wrong. The rent rates per square foot are insane for what would be considered, non-prime locations where we are now. They're asking mall rates in Iowa for that, and primarily it's because of the property taxes that businesses get charged. But I digress. I won't go into my soapbox there, because we have too much other stuff to do. My bottom line is, if you guys need help with your computers, if you need help with a website, if you're a business trying to get noticed on the internet, you need some help with marketing and exposure, Schrock Innovations and Schrock Interactive are there to do that for you. Also, if data recovery, we actually have a separate brand for that called Data Recovery Technicians, but it's also a Schrock Innovations division, basically, that has all the same equipment the National Data Recovery Labs have, except we do the work for half the price, because we're local. It works out. We take care of our friends. So if you've been following this story, guys, about, and probably not, you're like, who? But the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Saladin? No. Sorry, I had his name up so I would see it next time I wanted to look at it, so I wouldn't have to stumble over it. Mohammed bin Salman, not Salmon, Salman. He had a little bit of a problem. You might recall there was a journalist that was killed by Saudi Arabia while he was in country. They literally abducted him, killed him, and then tried to cover it up. This reporter reported his columns were published by the Washington Post. The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos was attending some kind of an event in Los Angeles. MBS, Crown Prince was there as well at this event. There was obviously some tensions between the two because of the killing of the reporter and everything. And so they met up and they had a goodwill meeting, a goodwill dinner, if you will. And after the dinner, they exchanged phone numbers so they could call each other, right? And so they both used WhatsApp on their phones for texting and communicating. So MBS sends a video to Jeff Bezos's phone, like a video text message basically. He plays it and he says, hey, it was great to meet you, have a great day. That video was actually the delivery vehicle for a cyber tool that was created in the state of Israel by a security company specifically intended to infect iPhones, that was sold to Saudi Arabia for the purpose of hacking and monitoring. So basically they sent this message on May 1st of 2018. And it infected his phone. And the reason they know it infected his phone is because normally Jeff Bezos, he had latent data. So in other words, if you're watching Netflix, that's purposeful data. If your phone is sitting on the counter and you're not doing anything with it and it's transacting data, that's latent data. Things are updating or alerting or whatever they're doing, little bits of data. His latent data was 430 kilobytes a day. So let's say 1 byte is 1,000 kilobytes, okay? So this thing is doing roughly half a byte a day of latent data. Not a lot of, or excuse me, that was incorrect. I apologize. A kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. So it's doing 430 kilobytes of data a day. Okay, not a lot of data, especially in modern terms. Once the message was played on his phone, the device saw a 29,000% jump in latent data. It was doing more than 6 gigabytes in the first day alone. So he went from 430 kilobytes to 6 gigabytes in a day. His phone was dumping everything it had to Mohammed bin Salam's spy services, basically. Then after that, it was continually uploading 101 megabytes a day in latent data. So it was ongoing, continuous spying. You remember that Jeff Bezos was recently divorced. Jeff Bezos was having an affair with another woman. He was married at the time. The affair went public somehow, and that is what caused it. Well, I don't want to make any value judgments, but basically the marriage was over after everything went public. How did that all go public? Well, there were pictures of Jeff Bezos and text messages between Jeff Bezos and his girlfriend talking and taking pictures and doing whatever. They all got released. How did they get released? Right here. This is how it happened. So basically, what this is this was one errant text message received on a phone that led to the continuous monitoring of everything on the device. If you don't think that you are a target for this, think again. You may not have anything on your phone that you would pay to protect. You may not have anything on your phone that would expose an illicit affair or, crimes of some sort. You may live a perfectly boring, normal life, and you're on your way to church right now and everything is great with the world, yet the information inside your phone is valuable because you probably have family members or kids, and chances are somebody somewhere in that long chain of people has something in their phone they would prefer not other people to see. So all of a sudden, by hacking your phone, they can get who you're connected with and they can hack that phone. They can turn around and say, well, you better pay us or we're going to show this to your dad, or we're going to show this to your mom or your grandma or your entire family, or so on and so forth. You get the idea. The blackmail possibilities are endless. And now we're starting to see ransomware attacks on phones where all the images saved in your phone get encrypted. And even if you have an iCloud backup or an offline backup, when these things synchronize and upload, it overwrites the good photos with the new encrypted ones. So that your stuff is all encrypted. It's all gone, and you have to pay to get your stuff back. Sometimes you have to pay to unlock your phone even, if the ransomware is bad enough. So these things 2 years ago didn't happen, which is once again why, we've gotten to the point where, you went from having a lot of computers to having fewer computers than you used to have, which reduced the number of antivirus licenses that you needed to have to keep yourself safe. And that was a good thing. But now the devices that you replaced those computers with, the tablets and the phones, are getting attacked just like the computers are. It used to be that they were safe, and now you are not. As a result, you need to get Symantec Endpoint mobile protection on all of your phones, tablets, everything, because it's another infection point or another entry point into your network. great example of this is we had a corporate client who was a dentist who had Endpoint on every computer in his office except for one that was brought in from home. That computer got infected with a ransomware infection and spread and literally encrypted everything on the network. It didn't infect anybody. So it didn't spread the infection to another computer. So Endpoint didn't have anything to go off an alert on. But because his one computer was not protected by Endpoint, it allowed the virus to come in and do all kinds of nasty things to everybody else. Cost him about $6,000 to get cleaned up. It's not a fun experience, guys. It takes the average business 16 days to recover from a ransomware attack. We got him picked up in about 13. So we beat the average there a little bit, but it was a mess. It was a huge mess for a long time. Again, all I can do is sit here on the radio, guys, and I know telling you this, 90% of you listening to me right now have already protected yourselves, and you're doing everything right. There's a subset of you who are doing some stuff right and not other stuff. You might have Endpoint, but you don't have Secure Updater. You might have Endpoint on your PCs, but you don't have it on your Mac. We have Endpoint for Mac. You might have, you might have Secure Updater and not have Endpoint. You might have Drive Advisor, but not have Secure Updater or Endpoint. You just don't have a complete protection package on your computer that you really need to have. So long story short, too late I know, don't be like Jeff Bezos. Protect your stuff and make sure that you don't become a victim. All right, number to join us, 888-250-2091. Coming up next on the show, 60% of you have never, ever, ever washed your cell phone or cleaned your cell phone. 60% have never specifically taken the phone out of the case and cleaned it. Nasty. Y'all nasty. We're going to tell you why you should do that coming up next on Compute This. All right, there is segment 3, guys. We went a little bit long on that one too, so now I've only got about 8 minutes left for the rest of the show. All right, so this is now Compute This segment 3, saved there, saving. So I've got to get through this one. I wove the 2 ransomware stories together, so I covered that one. And now I need to get this last tab open. Reports suggest, the price war. Yes, the price war. All right. So let's do that, and here comes the final segment, guys. All right, folks, final segment of the program. Thanks for sticking with us through the hour. We appreciate it. If you're watching right now on Facebook, please take a moment to click like or click follow on our facebook.com/Schrock Innovations page. First of all, if you click like, it helps spread the show, and especially if you share it with your friends, it helps spread the show to other people that may not be naturally exposed to us. We do a lot of talking on AM radio, but let's face it, guys, not everybody listens to AM radio. But those people who don't usually are on social media somewhere, and we can help them too if you help us spread the message. Also, I had a customer that came into the service center and told me that he was upset because Facebook used to pop up and tell him when we were live. So then he wouldn't have to go looking for the show. He would just find it. It would find him when we were live. But it's not doing that for him anymore. Facebook is constantly screwing with their algorithm, trying to figure out how to show you what's important to you. One of the ways that you can get alerted whenever we have something new is to not just like our page, but click the follow button. Follow Schrock Innovations on Facebook. When you do that, you will be alerted when we have a live feature like the show or an after Schrock, or sometimes during the week we'll pop on with something that's important. Or you'll see cool things like we had a computer, a Mac Mini, that came into the Papillion Service Center. Guy had it into the Genius Bar at the Apple Store 3 times because it was getting slow. It was 3 years old. They obviously wanted him to buy a new computer. But basically they did everything they could to speed it up. They tweaked it. They did everything they could. They were at the limits of what the hardware could do. They couldn't increase his memory because it's baked onto the motherboard. They don't replace hard drives there with solid state, so he was stuck with a mechanical hard drive. So finally, on the 3rd visit, the guy's like, at the end, the text says, "Well, I sure hope we helped you out with everything today, sir." And the guy's like, "No, you really didn't. I'm walking out of here with a computer that's slower than I would like. I paid a lot of money for this thing, like $800. It should last me more than 3 years." Which it really is not intended to anymore, as we've covered previously here. That 18-month thing applies to all laptops, guys. MacBooks are not special like that. They're the same thing as everything else. Same tech as everybody else. So the guy leans over and he says, "Listen, take it over to Schrock across the street," because we're right across the street from the Apple Store in Omaha. "Take it over to Schrock, have him put a solid-state hard drive in it. It'll be phenomenal." So he does. He brings it over to Schrock. We take an afternoon, we put a solid state hard drive in it, and I hear this guy's story. So I take a picture of it and I post it to our Facebook page. And I post it and say, hey, we're doing what the Apple Store can't or won't do. And so then, it was just normal, like, haha, fanfare kind of thing. We had one guy post on there, it's like, obviously Apple can install hard drives in a computer. And I'm like, yes, obviously Apple can do that. Yet, can't or won't. They won't. So this customer is here. And when he gets his computer back, it's going to be 10 times faster than the day he got it. He got his computer back yesterday. When he took it home, he got back on Facebook. And he said, wow, no, I took it to the Apple Store 3 times and they said they would not do it. They specifically sent me to Schrock to do it. And this thing is faster than it was the day I bought it. Thank you, Schrock. I'm like, wow, we cannot ask for a better endorsement than that. So if you click follow, you see those little updates on our Facebook page. All right. So one of the things that you guys know, when you have your phone, it goes with you virtually everywhere. Well, some people maybe not. Some people put their phone on the charger or put it in their purse and forget about it. But for the vast majority of people that have smartphones especially, it goes everywhere. It goes into the kitchen. You might have it at the table during mealtime. It goes in your pocket. It goes to work. It goes to the cup holder in your car. It goes to the toilet with you. It goes to the toilet with you at work and at home and in the public restroom. They get dirty, right? So what this company did is they took a regular phone, a Samsung Android phone, and took it through regular life for a day or two, and then they put it in an incubator, which is designed to incubate bacteria. Holds it at 30 degrees Celsius for 48 hours. And the pictures, you can't see the pictures, but they're truly awful. You're probably glad you can't see them. The pictures show that they call it high colony forming units per square inch. So CFU per square inch is how this is measured. So if you travel a lot with your smartphone, you might really want to take a wipe with you, because outstripping everything else on the list, if you take your phone out to check in at the airport, the self-check-in kiosk contains a shocking 253,857 CFU per square inch of bacteria. It is literally the filthiest, that check-in terminal is the filthiest thing in the entire airport, and it's touchscreen, guys. Boop, 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 boop. And then you take your phone and you scroll and you scroll and you scroll. Boop, boop. Okay, there we go. And you've just contaminated your phone with all that nasty bacteria. So, especially, you've heard a lot about I think it's hilarious. It's called the coronavirus, is what the media is calling it. Like, if you're Corona, if you're the beer brand, you got to be like, come on, for real. It's like there's a lot of 20-year-olds that get the coronavirus from time to time. Next morning you have these flu-like symptoms. You might have a little stomach upset. You have a horrible headache. Your cotton mouth. Those are some common symptoms of the coronavirus. Usually it is accompanied with a Lyme. But no, this virus in China, this is spreading all over the place. And one of the reasons it's spreading is stuff like this. We all have our smartphones, and we're just taking them from place to place and spreading this stuff. So when you have a smartphone, take it out of the case once in a while and wipe it down. They did a survey, and they found that 60% of the people that have smartphones actually have never, ever, ever purposefully cleaned them. They never got out an antiseptic wipe or like a Clorox wipe and then Windex and like cleaned the phone. They've never done that. So your phone is incubating all that nastiness. So here's the best part. When you take the phone out of the case and you clean the phone, clean the case before you put it back in. That's a hot tip from Schrock Innovations. All right, 888-250-2091. Price war emerging, according to one report, between AMD and Intel. Last week we kind of brought you the root of the story here, that Intel's chips are in shortage. The processors that Intel makes for computers, laptops, and desktops are in widespread shortage right now. As a result, we're seeing an increased demand in AMD processors because that's all people can get. So if you're building a computer, you're going to use an AMD chip right now because the price of the Intel chips is getting ridiculous. This has led to now a shortage in AMD chips and then a shortage in AMD motherboards, because if you buy an AMD processor, you have to buy an AMD motherboard. And the AMD motherboard manufacturers were set up for a certain amount of business. They weren't set up to be continuously providing motherboards at an Intel pace. Well, now that you can't get an Intel chip, you're not buying an Intel board. And if you're buying an AMD chip instead, you're buying an AMD motherboard. That's why at Schrock right now, in any great quantity, we cannot get quantities of AMD motherboards or AMD processors. We're getting them onesie, twosie here and there, which is causing us to be about a week to now 10 days behind on some computer builds. It's incredibly frustrating. Then I see a report that says that they're talking about having a price war. And I'm thinking, is this the stupidest thing you could possibly do right now? AMD has had Intel on the back foot across both consumer and server markets for 2 years, which is why all Schrock systems are built on AMD chips. But the chip giant could be ready to throw money at maintaining their market dominance. This is when they hire the Blue Man Group to do commercials, or their boo 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 boo. They do their Intel thing. They have little chimes and tones, and their ads are everywhere. And then they pay small manufacturers to include the Intel logo or say Intel inside. It's called co-op advertising dollars. And smaller vendors get those co-op dollars to reduce their marketing expenses by including that little Intel tone at the end. That's why when you hear a Dell commercial, you always hear the Intel sound at the end. Dell got a nickel for every commercial. So basically, Intel, no doubt, is feeling the heat right now. But they have a vast declining amount of cash on hand because they can't sell chips. They have over $12 billion on hand in September, which, it sounds like they're really hurting, which is a potentially massive war chest. AMD, on the other hand, only has $1.2 billion on hand. So Intel is saying we have $12 billion, AMD has $1.2 billion. So if we go on a marketing blitz and buy every ad everywhere, AMD can't counter. So even if AMD has a superior product at a lower price, if we have brand recognition, people will ask for our brand rather than buying the brand of better value at a lower price, which is why virtually every state and city office everywhere has a Dell computer. Do you know that in most states you have to buy small business stuff? Well, Dell gets around that too. So watch for this, guys. Watch for the prices of these processors to drop, which will further exacerbate their availability. All right, thanks for joining us on the program today. We got to wrap it up, guys. I appreciate you joining us. If you missed any of the program, check it out, facebook.com/Schrock Innovations, and we will be back again next Sunday for another exciting edition of Compute This. And we ran a minute and a half long, but, that's what compression is for. Oh, no. Did I just do what I think I did? Oh, no. All right, this was supposed to be segment 4. Yeah, boy. All right, I'm going to fix this, guys. Thanks for watching on the video. We'll join you again next week. We'll be back live on Facebook, and we'll also have an aftershock for you. Have a great week.